But I wanted to share my own kind of experience on an airplane, which is relevant, I promise, to what I'm going to talk about, which is really, and I just love that everybody's hitting this theme from different angles. And thanks for not ripping me off, Ajay. You didn't see my slides beforehand. You're talking about people. We're talking about consumers. We're digging into what exactly is going on and how is that going to affect me. So I was on the aisle seat. There were two little kids next to me, center and window, and the gentleman in the middle seat in front of the little dude in the middle seat. I know none of your kids do this, but was doing this on the tray the whole flight from DC. And the father, excuse me, the gentleman in front and sitting in the middle who was getting that done to his chair stood up and whipped around and looked at me, and he said, "Your kids are awful. My flight was ruined." And I said, "This is my moment. I've waited like my whole life." So I waited for the pregnant pause. And I said, "Sir, there's only one problem. It's not my kid." And it was the best day of my life because I was able to take this really cranky guy and watch him in a moment's time go from brash to like my buddy wanting to buy me a coffee. But the message there is that you have to understand context and the consumer and who they are profoundly. I was at a dinner over the holidays with a friend. It's kind of a strange extension. I married into an Italian family, so there's a lot of them. But I ended up at a table with somebody I didn't know. It was the in-laws of my friend who were both over 75. And we were chatting over dinner, and I said, "How many of you have a voice-activated device?" And they both said, "We have a voice-activated device at home." And I said, "How do you feel about it?" And at the same time, the wife said, "I hate that freaking thing." And the husband said, "I love her." And so we had a good time and we dug into that. And what's happening now with voice in particular, but also the generations where voice activated is really not being driven by the Z generation or the X or the Y. It's really being driven by a much older demographic, which is really fascinating if you think about what we're selling and how we're going to communicate with them tomorrow when it comes to voice. The wife was angry about it because she said, everything we have in common, they were married 48 years, everything we have in common, he asks me, "Hey, who was in that movie?" And you can make up the rest of it. What's the directions? What's the weather? And so on. And he said, "It's amazing. I never have to ask anything. I can do this all myself." He said, "I love this. This has like changed my life." But what was so interesting about it was actually, and I saw them subsequently a few weeks ago actually, is that the relationship, it didn't break or anything, but they had to rework their relationship again because it was new conversations they never had. She never answered the who was in this or that and where are we going and what's the weather conversation. And so I say all that to mean that this new customer, this new view of the consumer, where we talk about it's always interesting and we do our research meetings and we say we know who our customer is, and we ask that question a lot, and we often get one answer, but we know the answer is really 5, 3, 8. Yesterday I had a meeting with one of our clients, and they said we first cut at the research showed 18 different types of customers, which means potentially 18 different types of messaging approaches in CRM to be able to communicate. In their case, they were selling shoes, to try to figure out how do we enable and capture that relationship. So what's happened? I'm the new luxury. It's another way to look at it. This is not about the luxury consumer, although it could be. This is really about me. Everything starts with me. And what our research is showing is, a year ago it was interesting, and now it's emerged as the thing, which is when you get back down to it, the basics really matter. Navigation better be great. The site better be easy to get around, both your regular website and your mobile site. And after you accomplish that, which if you don't, I will bounce you forever and you will not be entitled to my relationship, is know me and really understand who I am and what I'm all about. So if I use this kind of as a metaphor, how many of you are familiar with Marco Polo? A few. I'm having so much fun with this. What I love about this device is that it really is a group. Those are some of my friends, Rosa and Sarah and Dominique. And these are people that essentially we're having communication that's not a text communication, it's a video communication. And they call it a video walkie-talkie. So I'm just gonna call Sarah. Let me try that now. Hey Sarah, what's up? I'm at the Client Summit, having a great time. Talk to you later. So it's kind of like a phone call, but we have many. Sarah hit me back. Let me do that again. Hold on.
Oh, hey, Chris. Are you on stage now? Oops, I must be missing it.
So what just happened in that moment, all my friends, and there's more than this, went from a group down to one. That's what we as marketers have to figure out. We have to figure out, how do I connect with one so that I can build these relationships, so that I matter to them, so that my trust with you and that brand is something that can endure. And if I don't connect at that level, not just my site works great, I've got the stuff you're looking for, the prices are cheap. Yep, check, 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 that all matters for sure. But really understanding who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what I care about. What tech do I have in my pocket at home? What do I look like, sound like? What's my accent? Where am I from? What car do I drive? And so on, to try to get at who am I, so that when I communicate, I can actually go deep and have a meaningful relationship with you. Seema had mentioned, and I'm Jack Seema, that was a great presentation, by the way, that we're starting to see real case studies of real brands breaking through and listening and understanding what is so necessary to drive the future, in that case of Macy's, retail, but I'll show you in a minute, a pretty mind-blowing nonprofit example organization that's doing something that I was just really not ready for. But Stitch Fix, I'm sure many of you are familiar with what they're doing. They have the benefit of starting a new model with no legacy, but Katrina is really talking about, in a podcast, this shift to consumer behavior and how permanent it is. Brad from Petco, same thing. We have to create an environment where consumers want to have this relationship with us. Mark Parker from the CEO of Nike, same conversation. Now we have people talking about it and doing something about it. You're seeing many, many more examples of breaking the past and breaking legacy thinking in order to be able to take that step, which is not a risky step. It's way more risky to not understand your consumer than it is to try to guess. You can enable conversations, whether it's Marco Polo, whether it's through email, old-fashioned email, which is still incredibly powerful, and even in your phone calls you're receiving within your customer service organizations, and capturing this information. And even Walmart, you've probably seen lots more Walmart advertising these days. They're going hard at Amazon. They kind of sat back for how long? We saw nothing other than, the classic Walmart kind of dull, dusty ads. Now they're interesting. They're really listening, and we're starting to see the difference. So I'm going to go to my favorite brand, Levi's. And yes, Brad Pitt, even then, was like incredibly drop-dead handsome. Because I want to tell you the Levi's story, which is a perfect example of a business deciding it had to change or it would be irrelevant. We mentioned Krispy Kremes before. Levi's had a little bit of that. They almost went out of business. They are basically out of cash. And if you look at their trend lines back in the late 2000s and early 2010, 2013, 14, they started just beginning to bounce. And what they discovered was they weren't really listening. They weren't really understanding what people cared about and what they were passionate about with this brand. And so the CEO went on a tour. He went on a global tour. It was fascinating. I had him listen to his presentation at a CEO conference, excuse me, that Women's Wear Daily put on. And he went on a global tour, and what he was looking for was, what does the brand mean to me? That was the question he asked. And he went around the globe and he talked literally about all these places he went to. And what did people say about their Levi's? And I'm sure in this room, lots of people have stories about their Levi's. Yep, I still wear them on Saturday when I'm in the garden. I still wear them when I go out with my buddies and go to a ball game. I still wear it with my friends when we go out dancing, or we go out hanging out, or we go out having a drink together, or my friends who get together every third week on Friday night to go bowling, and we have such a crazy time. People have stories behind this brand, but Levi's had lost all that. It was just about how many more pairs of jeans could we sell. But I want to play this ad for you because, first of all, it's my favorite ad of all time. So it's going to go on a little bit long, not very long, I promise, but worth it because you'll recognize it. But you don't know where it came from. The CEO landed in one place in Africa and found this woman and said, "Tell me why you wear Levi's." And she said, how many of you have seen that commercial? That's where it came from. It's what I dance in. How perfect is that? That's listening to the consumer at a level that completely changed that business. It's the largest seller of denim. They also have completely rediscovered vintage denim and met this guy, Jeff Fuller. Crazy story, which I'll keep short. He used to have a denim business in LA in the late 70s that didn't work out, but he ended up collecting 50,000 pairs of Levi's, perfectly preserved, in a room with a moisture ridding machine at a perfect temperature, and he sold the 50,000 pairs to Levi's, and which created their whole vintage business, which is now the largest Levi's vintage business. If you go online and check it out, they're not that expensive, but they're the real thing. How many of you know what this is? Everybody seen it? I see one or two. It's the Echo Look. And I promise this is not an advertisement for Amazon because we are amongst our special friends at Google. But I will say Google's doing the same thing. And with their voice business now completely on par with what Amazon is doing, but starting to discover what this technology can do. In this case, the Echo Look, every morning, this is in my closet. Yes, it's true, Meg, I take a picture of myself every morning. And I have it up on my little shelf, and I say, take a picture, and it takes a picture. Because I like fashion. Fashion's good fun. And so I had to take a couple of pictures, one at my house and one in the office the other day. But now what I can do is I can hit check it, and it tells me if I did a good job. Did it like what I wore? And it's going to make recommendations for me, kind of what Seema was saying about AI. Now it's going to actually tell me, hey, you know, this might be better with that, as opposed to what you're wearing now. I won't tell you exactly what my first reaction was. I didn't like it. But anyway, you know, now it's captured. And again, custom. If you sell shoes, oh my gosh. Earlier, I was in the hallway with Sam, who's in here somewhere, Sam Norpel from Vitamin Shop, and she was talking about this amazing story about her red Chuck Taylor Converse sneakers, and I won't go into it, but how powerful that became as part of her family. It's not just a sneaker. It's actually someone's life. It was actually, the sneakers actually were a story about somebody who was incredibly powerful to her. We have to get at that level of insight into who people are. So I'll just share a couple of the research studies we did, and we'll pass this out so I don't have to spend a lot of time on here. But look what's showing up on the bottom right-hand corner. I found this, I said this earlier, I found this amazing. Number 2 of many, many choices of the thousands of people we researched said, site is not secure. That's the most important thing to me, second most important thing to me. And you can see 46% of men in those age groups and then females as well. But even at the lower ages, site is not secure is a huge thing. It is not just in our office, hey, there's a virus or someone's phishing. It's actually on our devices at home too. And what we're seeing now, and this I had mentioned earlier, is this trend where people have taken kind of out of the dust in their closets and said, this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what makes me feel good, this is what bothers me. And we're expecting that now to be applied to how people shop. So we mentioned Macy's earlier. Take a look at the last quarter. Excuse me. The financial performance way overperformed. Some of that is due to some real estate they sold. Macy's turned the corner. In the Macy's Woodbridge store in particular, and there are 30 Macy's stores around the country that are experimenting with all kinds of new things. Again, because it's what the consumers are telling us they want. The juice bars are not for juice. It's to charge your phones, just like we have in here. Digital lockers, so if you buy something and you want to pick it up, they send you a code, you go to the locker. If it's small, you can go pick it up in a small locker. If it's a vacuum cleaner or a Shark Ninja, you can go into the bigger one, and it's in that digital locker for you. And finally, and I don't wear makeup, but you don't have to go sit on a stool and have somebody make you up to tell you, it doesn't look very good. Let's try this or let's try that. Everything's now on an iPad. I don't like that. Let's try this. Let's try that. This is where technology, again, is very much focused on me and what matters to me. In Las Vegas, there's a whole reimagination going on about what the retail experience should be. I suppose starting in Vegas is not shocking. The Fisher brothers, who are a very large private real estate business in New York and across the country, have reimagined this whole experience. And so the gentleman who created Game of Thrones, which I'm sure many of you are huge fans of, is the money behind this whole new experience where it starts with a consumer, and the consumer really picks the experience they want to have. And it's music and art and electronics and very much kind of a state of being where people can be excited about what it is they're passionate about. Oh, and by the way, they also have 126,000 square feet of selling stuff within an environment of something that people have told them they want. And I often say, when people get excited about experiences, I say it's not experiences that we're focused on. We should be focused on the consumer that tells us the experiences they want to have, which is why many organizations are missing. They're putting up experiences and hope it works out. Just listen to the consumer. They will really tell us what we'd like to see and be part of. I'm almost done. I just want to share a couple of examples, again, of where going deep and understanding the consumer is at a profound level that's actually changing how we understand, in this case, Down syndrome. To take a story that is difficult for a parent who births a child of any kind of challenges, the last thing you want to hear is the word "I'm sorry." I chose to have that child. It's my child. I don't want to hear "I'm sorry." What I want to hear is who that child is. So rather than words, 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 the Canadian Down Syndrome Society flipped it over completely and let those people talk about it that are actually the most affected.
When do babies with Down syndrome learn to talk?
Is Down syndrome curable? Can a person with Down syndrome get married? Yeah, everyone is not. It's not just people with who does not have Down syndrome. I hope to one day. I haven't found the Mr. Right yet, but I hope to.
Can a person with Down syndrome ride a bike? Yes, I can!
So you take what was a very one-dimensional, text-heavy, maybe some photos experience of my child or my friend's child, or I'm just researching Down syndrome and I'd like to know more about it, and flip the whole thing upside down. So now that relationship with whomever is actually doing the looking and the searching, all the walls just came down because now the kids are talking to me. And if you go on the site, you should check it out. There's all kinds of videos. And it's people telling their stories, and it's just such a powerful use of profoundly understanding what people are passionate about and concerned about or looking for, and listening and being able to react to it. I'm going to end on this. How many sneakerheads in the room? Be honest. One, come on, seriously? Put your hands up. Sneakerheads, who's crazy about sneakers? There we go. That's better. So about a third of you over here, apparently none of you like sneakers. Yeah, right. So sneakerheads are kind of an interesting breed. They're a little crazy about their sneakers, and they will almost do anything to get them, and I won't go into all the whats and wherefores of what they do. 2 a.m. in Central Park waiting for a special ticket just to get in line ahead of 30 other people. But GOAT stands for Greatest of All Time, and Flight Club joined. And I read that, and I literally, my reaction was like, wow, perfect. GOAT is killer technology, AI and data infrastructure, completely US-based. Flight Club is international-based. They have stores. GOAT doesn't. Flight Club has quite good technology, but not what GOAT has. They know what you buy, when you bought it, what you care about, what color you like, what's, literally down to personal choice. They're now coming together. I'm very, very excited where this is going. Nothing has happened yet because it just happened 2 weeks ago, but it's an example of kind of the new economy solving consumer problems in a way that we're all capable of if we really truly understand exactly what it is, the problem we're trying to solve. So I had two of my friends help me out and try to tell this story a little bit more. But first, just take a look at the numbers. 15 million monthly site visits, 7 million members. It's a $300 million business. When you combine it in a $2 billion market, that's barely scratched the surface. So if we ask our friends at Nike and our friends at Converse and some of the other brands, we know all about what people are excited about. So I'm going to ask my friends Jesse and Vito to tell us.
So I'm here at Sprint Sports. This was my main primary destination for buying the latest colorways of my favorite sneakers in my day. It was primarily Nike Dunks. I love sneakers because this is where I'm from. This is my memories. The latest colorways, some of the coolest shoes ever. It was an expression of our culture, our music, where we lived. So it's part of me. That's why I love sneakers.
About these 2 videos is how personal they made it. And I asked them to, of course, but when you talk to somebody who's into anything, they will be that specific and that primal almost about what they're so passionate about. And the last gentleman I'll play, his name is Vito. He's an extremely intelligent guy, works in our technology group, is probably the biggest sneakerhead that I know. And man, he just says it. And I'll end on Vito.
What makes me nuts about sneakers? I think for me, there's no better feeling than on a Saturday morning when an exclusive pair of Jordans drop and you're able to secure that pair online. That's the thrill of the chase. That's what keeps me in the game.
Thank you very much. We done? Any questions, or we're going to break? Tiffany? Any questions, anybody? Happy to answer anything, or we can at the break. If anybody has a confession about their sneaker problem, happy to talk to you. They're hungry. All right, let's go have lunch. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Chris. Great.